If you're unlucky, you may come face to face with one of the greatest paranormal horrors out there, the shadowmen. These enigmatic figures, often seen as fleeting, dark silhouettes without any features, appear to exist just beyond the periphery of human perception. No one knows where they came from or what they want from us. The phenomenon of shadowmen crosses the boundaries of simple ghost tales, challenging our understanding of reality itself. Reported by countless witnesses around the globe, these shadowy figures are said to appear and disappear swiftly, leaving an intense sense of dread in their wake. Despite terrifying their victims, and in some cases leading to unexplainable disappearances, shadowmen do not conform easily to conventional explanations or scientific understanding. In Western culture, any encounter with a shadowman is usually considered a paranormal event. They are frequently associated with ominous presences and are considered harbingers of misfortune or even death. This interpretation is deeply embedded in the Gothic tradition of literature and horror, where shadows often symbolize the unknown and unexplored aspects of the human mind. For instance, in the stories of Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft, shadows are not just physical absences of light, but portals to deeper, darker realms of human experience. Conversely, in many Eastern cultures, shadows are not always seen as malevolent. In Japanese folklore, for example, shadows can belong to spirits or ancestors who linger in the physical world. The concept of yurei, the Japanese ghost, often involves shadows that appear to convey a message or complete unfinished business. Here, shadowmen might be considered more as manifestations of unresolved emotional conflicts rather than threats. Meanwhile, many Native American tribes regard shadow figures as spiritual entities with distinct roles and attributes. For instance, the Navajo culture speaks of shadow beings as part of their spiritual and mythological cosmos, often related to the chindi, a sort of ghost or residual energy left after a person dies. These beings are respected and sometimes feared, but they are also acknowledged as a significant aspect of the natural order, linking the material and spiritual worlds. But the one thing that stays the same across all cultures is the shadowmen's appearance. They are often described as dark figures, much darker than the surrounding darkness, even in dimly lit environments. This makes them stand out against all backgrounds, giving the impression of a void or absence of light shaped like a human. They are typically seen as male figures, although this may be more reflective of their size and build, rather than any identifiable gender traits. Shadowmen are commonly reported to be about average human height, ranging from about 5'8" to over 6 feet tall. However, their presence is often felt as imposing or menacing, which may cause their size to be perceived as larger than in reality. Despite their human-like form, they lack complex details. No discernible eyes, noses, or mouths are visible, only the vague shape of a head and torso with limbs. In some accounts, particularly distressing sightings describe the figures as having glowing red eyes, which are often attributed to a more malevolent nature. One of the most unnerving aspects of shadowmen is their movement. They are often described as moving fluidly and quickly, darting out of sight when noticed, or disappearing when someone attempts to look directly at them. This ability to evade direct observation has led many to speculate on their nature, whether they are interdimensional beings capable of moving between planes of existence or simply figments of malevolent dark spirits. They most often appear in peripheral vision, in the transition between wakefulness and sleep, or in areas with low light conditions. This has led to theories about their existence being tied to psychological and physiological states, such as sleep paralysis, where the brain is highly susceptible to vivid hallucinations. Strangely, shadowmen only rarely interact physically with the environment or people, though there are a handful of tales describing vicious attacks being perpetrated by these shadowy monsters. Instead, their impact is more often psychological, leaving witnesses with a profound sense of dread or fear. This lack of physical interaction has fueled debates about whether they are simply hallucinations or something more supernatural. Shadow men have appeared in various historical accounts that span centuries and cultures, adding a layer mystery and intrigue to their narrative. These sightings, documented in various forms such as folklore, personal diaries, and even early newspapers, provide a fascinating glimpse into how these enigmatic figures have been perceived over time. One of the earliest recorded mentions of shadow men can be traced back to the early medieval period in Europe. Chronicles from the time occasionally refer to black monks, or shadowy monks, who would appear in monasteries and disappear without a trace. These figures were often associated with omens or the spiritual testing of the monks. For example, the famous mystic and philosopher Thomas Aquinas supposedly encountered a shadowy figure during one of his meditations, which he later described as a test of his faith and resolve. In the Victorian era, the fascination with spiritualism and the occult led to a surge in reported sightings of shadow men. These entities were often described in the personal letters and diaries of those dabbling in spiritualist practices. One notable figure, Madame Blavatsky, a founder of the Theosophical Society, wrote extensively about shadowy figures that she claimed were manifestations of spiritual energies from other planes of existence. These accounts were widely discussed in the spiritualist communities of Europe and America. Across the Atlantic during the same period, American spiritualists also reported encounters with shadow people during seances. These encounters were often documented in great detail, describing these figures as guardians of the spiritual world or lost souls in limbo. The famous Eddy brothers of Vermont, who were known for their psychic abilities, frequently spoke of seeing shadowy figures during their psychic demonstrations, which drew large crowds and the attention of notable figures of the time, including the journalist and explorer Henry Morton Stanley. Moving into the 20th century, the phenomenon of shadow men entered popular culture through the burgeoning field of paranormal investigation. One of the most publicized cases occurred in the 1950s when a journalist named Darren McGavin reported on a series of strange occurrences in a small California town for his newspaper. Residents described seeing shadowy figures that moved with supernatural speed and agility, fostering a local legend that persists to this day. In more recent times, the phenomenon has been given further attention through the works of authors and researchers like Heidi Hollis, who has written books and hosts talk shows on the subject of shadow people. Hollis describes her own encounters with these beings and collects stories from people all over the world who have experienced similar phenomena. Her work has helped to normalize the discussion around shadow men and integrate it into the broader context of paranormal research. Whether they are dismissed as figments of the imagination or accepted as phenomena requiring further exploration, shadow men continue to occupy our minds. As both an ancient cultural element and a modern mystery, they challenge our perceptions of reality and force us to consider more profound questions about the human experience and the nature of the universe itself. As long as the shadows linger, so too will the quest to understand the dark figures that inhabit them. Thank you for watching this episode of Shadowy Visions. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please like and subscribe, and be sure to join us next time as we delve into more unexplained phenomena and chilling tales.